Well, hello and welcome to episode number 3 of the Travel Buzz podcast for June the 17th, 2023. In this episode, we'll be discussing a recent trip to Disney World with our friend Lysa. Make sure and visit our sponsors who make this show possible, Big Dreams Travel, www.bigdreamstravelusa.com. Enjoy the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. Welcome to episode number 3 of the Travel Buzz podcast. I'm your host, John Arthur, and with me today, special guest is Lysa Thornton. Lysa's the co-owner and senior agent over at Big Dreams Travel. How's everything going today, Lysa?
Oh, it's going great, John. How are you today?
Good. Good. Any day we can talk a little Disney travel is a good day.
That's right.
And so we are going to get started. But before we start, remember to support Big Dreams Travel. They are the ones who make our show possible. At Big Dreams Travel, their goal is to help your family have the vacation of your dreams while they do all of the work. Their dream designers will work with you from start to finish and help you through all of the important aspects of your vacation, wherever that may take you. Contact them to get a no-obligation quote. For any vacation destination you may have interest in, you can visit them at www.bigdreamstravelusa.com. Well, let's get started here with our show today. And we've got Lysa, like I said, one of the senior agent over at Big Dreams Travel is with us. And that's one of the great things about working as with a travel agent is you get someone who's got experience on these destinations, wherever that may be. And we will continue to bring some of their expertise to you here on the show. But we're going to get started today with Lysa. She was at Walt Disney World not too long ago, stayed at Caribbean Beach Resort, which is a great resort that's been kind of revitalized in the last 4 or 5 years. And so kind of excited to hear about that. She stayed obviously there on Disney property. So Lysa, why don't you start by just giving us a little bit of background on the trip, why you were at Disney. Go ahead and share why you were down and what the purpose of these days were for you.
Okay. So our most recent trip to Walt Disney World was with my husband and my daughter and a couple of our friends. We were actually in Orlando for our daughter's national dance competition. And so, you know, we can't go to Orlando without spending some time at Walt Disney World. So we went and spent 3 days and we just had a fabulous time. It was great. Nice rest and relaxation and fun following all the intense days of competition. So,
sure. And if you've got kids in sports or dance or any of those things, these things go on all year long,
all the time
down in Orlando. And so it's certainly you might have a chance one of these days to go to an event like Lysa was down for.
Yep.
And of course, get some park time in and share a little bit about that with us. Here, Lysa, talk to us a little bit about, it may be a little different because of your trip was there for not just vacation purposes, but talk to us a little bit about how you got to the resort, the transportation process. That's changed a little bit in recent years since Magical Express went away. So talk to us a little bit about how you handled that.
Okay, so this time we used a private Uber driver. His name is Uber Steve Orlando, and he drives for Uber, but he lets you pre-schedule rides with him. And so we chose to go that way instead of using one of our transportation partners that we have, because he's right there waiting for you. And it was just the 3 of us. So we didn't really need a big motor coach. We didn't have a lot of luggage. And so it was so quick. And then we used the same thing to go back to the airport. So, but it was really nice. And, you know, a lot of times when families want to get to the property faster, a lot of them who feel comfortable will use one of the rideshare services like Uber or Lyft. Sometimes using one of the big coaches might take a little longer. So if you're really itching and really ready to get there, you know, Uber can be a good fit for you. And for us this time, it was great. And Uber Steve does a really great job. And so we were really, really happy with his services. So.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's definitely, sometimes the Uber Lyft can just be easier then
Right.
you don't have to mess with pre-booking anything and
Right.
being tied to this
Yeah.
schedule and things. So yeah, that can definitely depend. Again, like you said, depending on your trip, how things are scheduled, that can certainly be a great option for people, and it gets you there the quickest.
Get you there
I
fast.
know, so we're going to talk. Let's move in and we'll kind of break this up and talk first. Let's talk about your resort at Caribbean
Okay.
Beach, and then we'll kind of move into some other things. So, just kind of give us why did you choose Caribbean Beach? What are
Okay.
some of the things that that jumped out at you, and then we'll kind of get into your room, your specific room, and
Okay.
those kind of things.
Awesome. So we chose Caribbean because it's one of our favorite moderate resorts. And, a lot of times we prefer to stay in a deluxe property because all the additional amenities that come with those. But this time, knowing that it was a quicker trip and we weren't going to have a lot of resort time, we chose Caribbean. It was actually on a really good price. And so we grabbed that. And again, there were five of us. Our friends stayed with us. So we were all able to stay in the same room. It was kind of squishy, but it was perfect. And so we just love the vibe and the atmosphere of that resort. It's very tropical and relaxed. Lots of palm trees and beautiful flowers and, lush greenery. And the sandy beaches and the hammocks and the calypso music playing everywhere you go. It's just a really, really great place to relax and enjoy and come home to in the evening. It's very beautiful at night as well. And so that is our primary reason for choosing that. It fit our price for this trip, and it fit our party. And of course, we love it. And it also has a Skyliner. So that
Mm-hmm.
is another bonus of staying at Caribbean Beach. So,
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely get to the Skyliner here on the list of things I want you to kind of tell us about. I'll just I think I've stayed at over 10 of the Disney resorts now myself. Caribbean Beach was actually my first back in
mm,
I think it was like 2010 or 2011, and there's just been a ton of changes since then.
right.
It was actually a resort back then that not as many people wanted to stay at. It
Hmm.
was getting a little older.
Right.
And they've done some remarkable work there that I'm sure you'll talk to us some about. But kind of
Yes.
what room type did you have, and what was your overview and thoughts of the room there at
Okay.
Caribbean Beach?
So we were in a preferred room location, and I always encourage my clients um, to book this location if it's available, just because the property is so large. And so there are two buildings. There's the Martinique building, which is closer to the Riviera, and then there's the Barbados building, which is closer to the Skyliner station. And that's the building that we were in. And it was a perfect location. We were very close. We were kind of right in the middle of the Barbados section. So we were very close to the main pool and the food court area. And then we were very close, just walk over the bridge to the Skyliner station. And you were talking about how the resort has changed over the years. And one of those changes was the check-in area building used to be like in the middle of the parking lot. And so a few years ago, they completely refurbished, rebuilt the food court and brought the check-in area over to the main building. So now when you check
Mm-hmm.
in, you don't have to walk across the parking lot. You've got the check-in, the lobby, the food court, Calypso Traders, which is the gift shop, which is a really good gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all there together by the main pool, which is a fantastic pool. It's one of my favorites on property. Um, so being in that preferred room location, aside from being close to the main pool and to the food court, which, with the Disney dining plan coming back and those refillable resort mugs, it's very convenient to go back over to the food court to refill your mug. Um, but you are at the first and second bus stops as well. Um, so one thing about Caribbean Beach that can kind of weigh on your patience a little bit is that there are 5 internal bus stops. So it can kind of take a long time to get around the whole resort before you ever head out into the park. But when you stay in a preferred location, you are right there at bus stop number 1. or bus stop number 2, which is fantastic. And you can actually board the bus in any location you want to, but when you're in that building, it's just easier. So that is one reason, those are some reasons that we like to stay in the preferred locations. Now that the Skyliner station is here, the Skyliner station is actually closest to Jamaica, which is across the lake and over the bridge. So those rooms, they are not preferred, they're standard, but they're actually closer to the Skyliner station, than the preferred locations. They're closer to the first bus stops. But the walk over to the Skyliner station is not far from Barbados. And if you stay in Martinique, a little hint, I always encourage my clients that if you don't need to come back to the food court, you can just walk around the bend across the pool area at the Riviera and board at the Riviera station. And so it's about the same distance if you're staying in the Martinique section. So, and sometimes it might not be as crowded either if you want to walk over there. So.
Yeah. So that Riviera Skyliner station may be closer in Martinique. It may be closer in some sections of Jamaica. I think,
and Aruba, because Aruba is the island that's actually closer. Yeah. So
that's right. Yep. I stayed at Jamaica on my one trip, and I do remember it was a standard room, but it was a very simple walk to get across the.
Right.
You walk across the little island to the main area, and so that's good. All right. And so tell us a little bit. You said you had 5 people in your room, so give us kind of a rundown on how that room for 5 is arranged.
Okay. So there are 2 queen beds in the room, and then 1 single sleeper that pulls down out of the wall, and then it folds back up during the daytime, so it's out of your way and all of that. It's really comfortable. My daughter slept on it. At first, she was a little nervous having to sleep on it, thinking that the mattress was going to be yucky, but she said it was actually really comfortable. And so they give you lots of extra blankets and pillows to make it really cozy. So she had fun sleeping on the single sleeper. It has a double vanity in the bathroom area. So there's 2 sinks, and then under the vanity is open. So you have lots of storage for your toiletries and things like that. Then of course there's a shower and tub, and then the toilet in the other part of the bathroom. There is a safe in the room, and there's a hair dryer, and there's a little beverage cooler. So if you want to grab some snacks or some drinks and stuff to keep in your room, it'll keep them nice and cool. There's a coffee pot. It is not a Keurig, but it has little, little filters that have coffee already in them. That makes pretty good coffee. It's Joffrey's, so it's very tasty. And there's a table over by the window, and then there's like a row of peg hooks on the other side of the door. So lots of places to hang purses or backpacks or things like that. And of course your television. And so it's a great room. I mean, we were tight. There were 5 of us, and, basically everyone's 16 and older. So full-size people. But we fit very well. It was great. And I know those rooms are kind of getting a freshening right now. They're not being fully refurbished, but I know they're kind of lightening up the rooms. I think they're taking out the carpet and putting in just the laminate flooring. So they're giving them a little bit of a refresher right now. They're starting way down on the end and kind of just working randomly through the resort. So I don't know if there's a timeline, but I do know that some of those rooms have already received a little bit of a facelift. So
right. Well, Disney they do those renovations, and in a longer period of time, they'll do the full thing. And then I think right now they're doing what they would call a soft goods refurbishment, where they're just kind of lightening up that room and modernizing a little bit and those kind of things. So the new rooms, new-ish rooms, I won't say they're not new in the last couple of years, but in recent times, they are newer and are good. And again, Disney has really and this is not the only resort that they've kind of committed to doing some of those rooms to sleep 5, which for a lot of years was kind of a problem point at Disney if you were a family with 2 adults and 3 kids or whatever it may be. And so they have kind of gone back to or gone at some of those moderate resorts and done those room types there. You talked
Right.
a little bit when we were kind of talking about just an overview of the resort. Maybe one of the maybe few minor drawbacks of Caribbean Beach is the size of the resort.
Right.
And I think, and we've kind of mentioned some of I think maybe what they would call neighborhoods around
Hmm.
Aruba and Martinique and Jamaica and Barbados, and there's one even a little further down on the end.
Right.
I think Trinidad maybe,
Hmm.
um, and those are the ones that are going to be the farthest walk from the main building.
Right.
They're actually not a terrible walk from the Skyliner now because the
No.
Skyliner sit over on the side of the resort. But there's definitely some walking involved, no matter where
Yes.
you are on this resort, to get to somewhere. Correct?
Right. That's exactly right. And that's why, sometimes those preferred locations, they come at a little bit higher cost, but it saves those steps. And, you may not think that a few extra steps is that big of a deal, but after you've been in the parks for a couple of days, or when you get home late at night, that extra walk back to get a drink
Mhm.
or to get a snack or run gets, they just kind of add up. And so I always like people to just know, and sometimes the budget won't allow it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so you kind of go in knowing that we may have some extra walking to do inside of our property. And so it's just something that I always like to let people know about when they're booking and what type of room category, so they're completely aware and they're not blindsided when they get to their vacation and are like, why am I having to walk way over here? So I always
Yes.
let them know that that could be a possibility. So,
Yeah, and I think that's maybe a little bit of the misconception sometimes is that Skyliner station is right next to the main building. You would kind
right,
of think, hey, if they're going to build this, they're going to build it next to the main building, but it's not. It's
right.
really
Nope.
almost on the opposite side of the resort from that main
Right.
building. And so
Yep.
that's why I say if you're in, you may have to walk somewhere no matter where you are in
Right.
that resort. So it's just good to
Yep.
be aware of. Good to be aware of
Yes,
that about Caribbean Beach.
for sure.
Lisa, give us a little thoughts. You kind of mentioned on the maybe what I would call a reimagining of that main building area
Hmm.
that they went through. Tell us a little bit more about that area. That kind of like it's almost kind
Okay.
of got a little feel of a little village in the Caribbean.
Yes. It's so nice.
Give us some thoughts on that.
Okay. So first of all, it smells so good. And if you notice when you walk into certain Disney, well, most Disney properties, you're welcomed by a very distinct smell. And oh, it smells so good in that lobby. So fresh and floral. And it's just refreshing. But they do have lots of really comfortable seating. They've got the long, flowy drapes just blowing in the wind. They have the big ceiling fans going. It just creates a very Caribbean ambiance in the lobby. And so over to the right is the food court, and it offers lots of different types of food, some Caribbean flavors, but you can also get your standard burgers and sandwiches and pizza and things like that. So lots to choose from. I think it's one of the better food courts at the moderates. Lots to offer. So it's really, really good. And so then when you come out, you're greeted by this beautiful fountain, running water, calypso music, and there's ping pong and there's some cornhole. So there's little poolside activities for kids and adults to play. And then um, lots of tables around the lake. And then, of course, there's the pool, and I mean, that's everything. It's just so much fun. There's so many things to do there. So,
Yeah, and so tell us a little bit about that main pool area, and then of
okay.
course they have some other pools around the resort. But tell us a
Right.
little bit about that main pool area. I know you spent some
So,
time there, I'm sure.
yes, so our first day was a pool day. We checked in and we found us some loungers and we hung out by the pool, and it was just great. So there's water slides and lots of fun things to do for the kids. There's a great splash pad and little kid area if you have littles, with a kiddie size water slide and a big bucket that dumps water. So it's a really fun place for the littles too. But it's just a great pool. It has a hot tub and lots of poolside activities going on that the cast members run for the children. And it has a really nice poolside bar called Banana Cabana,
Yes.
They have these delicious pull apart rolls with like this guava butter that you need to have when you go. And of course, you can get your adult beverages, sodas, whatever you need from the poolside bar. It's just a great place to spend an afternoon, whether you're taking a complete resort day or coming back from the parks just to get out of the heat and away from the people and cool off a little bit and have a different part of your vacation.
Mhm. Yeah, Banana Cabana has a really interesting menu.
Mm-hmm.
Just some really good options there. I think they've got some
Yes.
chicken wings on the menu and stuff like
Yep.
that. Those pull apart rolls, I know I've heard a lot about
They're so good.
that you said, but just kind of stuff you would want around the pool, but
Right. Yep.
definitely got a little Caribbean flair to it. So
For
and
sure.
it's a little bit of it was a completely redone venue, I think, when that resort was kind of reimagined.
Yes. Yes, they
And so
did.
that's awesome there. They do have other pools, quiet village pools around
Yes.
in all the different villages. I don't know
Right.
if you used any of those
We didn't use
or
any of
main pool for you
those.
guys.
We like the activity of the main pools. Yeah, that's kind of
Sure.
more our personality. But yeah, they have just the regular like square shallow pools in the other villages, and a lot of times you'll see families with younger kids just playing and splashing in the water. When they might not want a bunch of other people around. So
Yeah. And Lisa, one of the things they did add, you weren't in this section of the resort, but they did add a restaurant down by the pool in that Trinidad section on the
yes,
far end of the resort. I think it's called
right.
Spyglass Grill, and I'm not super
Spyglass
familiar with the
Grill.
menu there, but
Hmm.
they did add that, which certainly helps people down
It's
in that
nice
area
for sure.
um,
Yes.
that may need a meal. And it's
Right.
located, I think, right next to that village pool there
Yes.
in that Trinidad section. So that's
Right.
certainly something they've added
Hmm.
recently. Give us your thoughts. We're kind of jumping into food here, but we might as well
But
stay
that's
there while
okay.
we're there. You talked a little bit about the buffet. I'm sorry, not the buffet, the food court
Right.
called Centertown Market.
Right.
It's again, it's quite a bit different than it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, just with the
Right.
renovation.
Right.
Did you guys have a meal? Did you have a meal there?
We did. So we had, I think it was that first day we had lunch there. I had some jerk chicken, which is really was very, very tasty. And I think, and my husband just had a burger, but I thought the jerk chicken was really, really good. Um, I don't remember what the others had in our party, but we were all really happy with the lunch. They have the freestyle Coke machines where you can refill your drinks and all the condiments that you could ever need, all the sauces, all the creamers for your coffee. So anything that you could possibly need for your meal or your beverages, it's all right there. And everything can be made to go. So if you want to grab your food and take it back to your room, or if you want to go outside and eat at one of the tables by the lake, you can do that too. Everything can be packaged to go, your drinks, your food, anything. So um, it's really good. And we didn't eat at Sebastian's Bistro. I've eaten there on a previous trip, but it's a family style restaurant. And a lot of people kind of compare it to um, Ohana. Like it's half the price and it's a little bit easier to get into if you can't get into Ohana, but you like that that Asian Polynesian flair. They've got really good shrimp and chicken and dumplings, and they have a really good dessert that's very close to that Ohana bread pudding with the caramel sauce. Very, very delicious. So that is something that you might could try at your resort if you can't make it to Ohana, or if you can't get a reservation, or if maybe just the timing to get back over to the Polynesian for a meal. Sebastian's Bistro is kind of like a hidden gem that a lot of my clients and I have actually enjoyed in past visits as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to get there now that you've got the
Yes,
Skyliner to this resort. So if
right,
you want to make it maybe a resort evening where you visit
right,
a different resort and have a dinner there, it's a lot easier to do that now with the Skyliner.
right.
I mean, this, and like Lisa said, this was a restaurant, a table service restaurant before they redid the resort,
Yes.
that got really not very good
Shutters.
reviews.
Mm-mm.
Shutters, that's right. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
the name. It got,
Yep.
I mean, it got such
It
bad
was
reviews that
just,
they had to
yeah.
they had to change the name of it, to Sebastian's.
Yes.
But
Yep.
but now, yeah, it gets really good reviews there now,
Really good review.
which is
Yep.
good. And the Skyliner makes it easy
And
to
I,
get over there. Go ahead.
yeah, and I will say one thing that another reason that we like to stay at Caribbean Beach is because we are so close to the Riviera, which used to be a part of the resort before they bulldozed it to build that. But they've got great dining over at the Riviera. Their quick service is so good, and they have a great coffee shop on the lobby. Some of the best coffee at Disney, I think, comes from that coffee shop. Of course, if you want to have dinner at Topolino's Terrace or one of the character breakfasts, it's just a short walk over there to your reservations. But it's kind of like having two resorts in one. You can enjoy their property. You cannot swim, but you can enjoy their lounges. You can enjoy their restaurants. You can enjoy their outside common areas. And it's just a really nice place to spend some time as well. And so that's kind of just an added perk of staying at Caribbean is you get kind of amenities of two properties when you stay there as well. So
Yeah, and that's, even staying at a resort, even if you love the food at your resort, it's nice sometimes to just be able to go to
yeah,
the next resort over and
for
have
sure.
something different. So
Yep.
yeah, that's a nice benefit of Caribbean. All right, so that kind of hits on most of the dining of Caribbean Beach. Um, the only other thing that's on the dining list, I don't know that it's really included on Caribbean Beach, but there is a Joffrey stand over by the Skyliner,
Yes. Yes,
which
there
comes in
is.
nice sometimes
Yes,
as you're getting on that Skyliner,
absolutely.
and can get you a little coffee, whether
Yep.
it's morning or afternoon or whenever you might
Yep.
need it.
Very handy.
That is there. Let's talk while we're there. Let's talk a little bit about the Skyliner. I think most people probably know where it gets you, but Lisa, give us some thoughts on the Skyliner. It maybe is the best new thing that Caribbean Beach has that's made it
Yeah.
taken it to be a much more desirable resort in the
Yes,
last few years.
absolutely. Yep. Skyliner is like the best thing ever. And I can't even imagine, I don't even remember the days without the Skyliner. It's just wiped all of those away. But the Skyliner, so it connects four properties, Caribbean and Riviera, as well as Pop Century and Art of Animation, to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So utilizing this transportation, it's fast, it's relaxing, it's enjoyable, it gives you that bird's eye view of so much of the Disney property. And most of the time, depending on your party size, you're in a gondola by yourself. More crowded times, like when parks close and things like that, they might put more people in the gondola with you. But a lot of times, if you have several people in your party, it's just you guys. And it's just a really great thing. It stays moving. And I mean, sometimes the lines can get long, but they're not like bus line long. And they're always moving. And so, when I was there one time with some friends, we just got on the Skyliner and rode it around because it was just, we wanted a break and we didn't want to go back to our resort. We were at Animal Kingdom Lodge that trip, and we just wanted a midday break. So we got on at Epcot and we rode it to the different properties, and then we would get off and get back on, and we rode it over to Hollywood, and then we would ride it back. And it was just fantastic. So it's a great place for a midday break as well as transport to the parks.
Yeah, and I think it's really a thing that Disney's done that there were a lot of questions about when they were building it, but
Right.
it's become a
It's
really big
great.
hit, and it's become
Yeah.
fairly reliable and all those kind of things. And that makes Caribbean Beach certainly
Yes.
a more desirable resort.
For
I think
sure.
the last thing I kind of had on my list about Caribbean Beach, Lisa, is talk a little bit about the bus service. I know this can be one of those
Okay.
other things that can be
Yeah.
difficult. Of course, now you only have to worry about it to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and Disney Springs. You don't have to worry about
Right.
it to Epcot and Hollywood Studios anymore,
Right.
unless there's weather in the area, obviously. But
Right.
give us a little preview, a little your ideas and tips on making the buses as good as they can be.
Okay. So, we had actually pretty good luck with the buses this trip. And, you know, you do have those multiple stops getting out of the resort. So I always remind people, just let them know that patience is so important when dealing with the buses sometimes, because it just is. Sometimes they are running late, or it's a crowded day, or maybe it's raining, or whatever the issue is. But for the most part, the buses ran very routinely, and they were there every few minutes to pick us up and take us to the next place. We did not experience super overcrowding on the buses. Now, by the time we got around to like the last bus stop, most of those people were having to stand, but that's not uncommon on a Disney bus. So it is nice if you're at one of the first stops that you might be able to be in a seat instead of to stand up. And so if you want to walk across the bridge and grab your coffee or your breakfast and then get on the bus over at Martinique or Barbados, you can definitely do that, because you can utilize any of the bus stops at the property. It doesn't have to be just where you're staying. So, the buses run well. It just takes a little bit longer. So if you're wanting to get to Rope Drop and get there early to Magic Kingdom, then you need to build that into your morning. Schedule in an additional 15 minutes, because you're going to need it as you get around the property. So, but I think the buses run well. I was pleasantly surprised. I have been there in the past. I think this is probably pre-Skyliner days. I have been there in the past where the buses have been super, super crowded. But I think the Skyliner has helped so much. I know it just goes to two parks, but I don't know. It was great going to Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. We didn't really have, any, you know, wait out of the ordinary. So,
Yeah, and I know they don't run them all the time, but I do think I do think most of the moderates now, maybe not French Quarter, but I think most of them are now equipped to handle the double length buses, and so I think that can take
yes,
some stress off the bus system at times. Those
right,
also go to the
right.
value resorts,
Yes.
and they
Yep.
don't run them all the time, but I think at the busy times they can run those. I keep wanting to call them double decker. They're not double decker, the double length buses
Right.
to get you to the parks. But that's good to hear about the bus service there at Caribbean Beach. Well, let's move in and talk a little bit about your park time while you were
Okay.
there. I know you hit all five parks. And so tell us a little bit about whichever you pick, start wherever you want to start. And maybe since it
Okay.
was just a short
Okay.
trip, maybe just walk us through if you remember your days, however you want to handle that's
Sure.
great. Let's talk a little bit about your
Okay.
park time.
All right. So we just did, like I said, we started our day with the resort day. We just wanted that relaxation. So our next 2 days, they were packed with all the things. Our first day was Hollywood Studios and Epcot. So we did utilize Genie Plus. We did utilize rope dropping, and we got up and out to Hollywood Studios, and we did everything we wanted to do. Now, again, so we're not traveling with littles on this trip. We've got two 16-year-old
And Lisa,
girls
what month
and
of the
three
year
adults.
was this? I think I forgot to ask you what month were you? Was
This
this
was
January,
February.
February? That's right.
This was
Okay.
February. Yes, going into President's Day weekend.
Okay.
So
So
it was right before crazy busy time.
yeah.
um, so we were able to ride. So, like I said, we did purchase Genie Plus. We were able to ride um, Rise of the Resistance, which we rope dropped. We chose not to purchase it. We went and got in line straight for that. It broke down twice while we were in line, of course, but even with the breakdown times. So we rode that, and we had our Genie Plus for Slinky Dog, and then Toy Story Mania, Tower of Terror twice, Frozen Sing Along, Rock and Roller Coaster twice, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So we did all of that by 2 o'clock when we hopped over to Epcot. And we had lunch. I forgot. We had lunch at 50's Primetime Diner. So
And
all of that by two
which
o'clock.
ones of those did you do with Genie Plus? What were you able to
We
kind of accomplish
did,
with Genie Plus?
we did, um, so we did everything with Genie Plus other than the second Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster.
So
But
you were able to
everything
have
else,
you so you were able to get a few Genie Pluses that morning. That's great to hear at Hollywood
yeah,
Studios because it had been a little bit
yes.
hard to get those at sometimes, end of last year, but I think the
Right.
capacity they've been able to get it a little more under control there.
It was a great morning. We were so happy. So it was really good. And then we purchased a earlier that morning we had purchased a individual lightning lane for Guardians of the Galaxy
Mm-hmm.
because we knew we wanted to ride it and we didn't really want to wait in the virtual queue
Yep.
because we knew we just had limited time at Epcot. And so we purchased our individual lightning lane for later in the day, and we went straight from Hollywood over to Epcot and hit Guardians, which was so fun. And I think we used maybe Soarin' and Test Track and Frozen. The rest of our time, we were just hanging out in the World Showcase for the rest of the evening, and it was just so great. So we really kicked it into high gear because we just wanted to make sure that we got in our favorites, and we had fish and chips, and we had from Yorkshire County, of course,
Of
and
course.
oh, I had one of the ice cream sandwiches from Paris, from France,
Mm-hmm.
that you put the ice cream in the brioche bun and they put it in the press, and so it's hot and cold. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Those were so good.
Worth it. Worth it.
So yeah, we had fun eating, of course, around the world and snacking and things. So it was just a really good day. Um, so that day was pretty much open to close. We did not take a break. We burned the candle at both ends. Now, our second day was our Magic Kingdom day. And we did hop over to Animal just to ride Expedition Everest. This trip, we wanted more time at Magic. And so, um, again, we used Genie Plus, but this time we would make our selections, but then we would stack them for later in the evening. We would modify
Mm-hmm.
them and we kept pushing them back. So when we came back, we would have a lot of rides lined up for us. So on
Mm-hmm.
this day, we did use a couple selections in the morning. We rope dropped, and, between that first couple of hours in the park, you can really do a lot even without Genie Plus until the crowds start building around 10:30. And so we did that and had lunch. We went and rode Everest. Then we went back to our hotel, and a couple of us took a nap. My husband went to the pool. And then after about an hour and a half, we headed back over to Magic Kingdom for the evening. And, we felt so much better than we did the day before because those little breaks are so important. And it wasn't extremely hot, it was perfect weather, but still you're kind of tired. And we all know that when we start to get tired, we get a little cranky. we don't, we aren't always fun to be around. And so we just decided it would be worth our time to go back and rest a little bit. And then we'd stay and close down the park. And
And you didn't
that's
even have
exactly what we
anyone.
did.
You didn't have any young kids with you either.
We
You
had no
just
babies,
it
but we
was it was
knew
for.
that,
That's right.
teenage girls
Yes.
can get cranky too. Doesn't matter. They can get as cranky as a 3-year-old.
Those
So we
breaks.
did,
Those
and
breaks
it
can
was
work
so
wonders.
nice. Yes. And we
Yeah.
knew going back, we had 3 lightning lanes lined up for us, like 6:37 and 7:45 or something like that. And so it was great. And then we watched fireworks and we hit a couple more rides before the park closed. And it was super fast. It was not the typical way, that we plan Disney vacations, but it was just one of those where when when you're in Orlando, you have to see Disney, and we love resort days. So we were sure that, that's how we started and had some resort time and relaxation before
Yeah.
we hit
Well,
the
and
parks. So,
yeah, and I'm going to speak to the Genie Plus. I'm with you. I got to, on our last trip, I really like stacking them in the evenings.
yep.
Um, how you can do that, you can modify the time if you need to and push it. But it reminded me of the old days of Fast Pass when
Yes.
you could go get the tickets and you could use them.
Uh-huh.
They let you use them anytime the rest of the day, and so
Anytime.
you'd save them all up till the end of the night, or
Yep.
they would even let you use it the rest of the month back in those days, and so you would even
Yep.
save them till the last day of your trip or whatever it was. And so this kind of gives you that feel that you can
Right.
stack those for the evening. You still have to go within that
Nice.
window now, but you can kind
Right.
of get them where you want them. And so I think kind of figuring out some of those tricks with Genie Plus has been helpful since it has come about the last couple of
For
years.
sure. Yes.
What tips and tricks would you have for people um, on a shorter trip? Because obviously you guys packed a lot into these 2 days of
Hmm.
park time.
Yes.
Of course, you had the resort day at the beginning, but still not a long trip. What would you tell
Right.
people is important when planning one of these shorter trips?
Well, I would encourage park hoppers, number one. Um, they still haven't lifted the park hopping until 2 o'clock thing, which is still annoying, but it's still better than not being able to hop. And um, park hoppers are just important when you're on a short trip. Even if you don't think you want to go to maybe more than two parks, you just never know. Because if there's a festival going on at Epcot, or if you just get the urge like we did to go ride Everest, you can do it. And it's fun and it doesn't take a lot of time. And especially if you have older kids and adults who can last longer in the parks, I think park hopping on a short trip it gives you flexibility, and you don't have to worry about, oh man, I wish we could have done that. So park hoppers are number one. um, I still think that breaks in the afternoon are important, because at first we were like, oh, we don't have time to take a break, we need to do this and get all of it in. But then we realized we were tired and we wanted to go rest. And so it was just a really good, learning time for us to realize that it did matter. And we were tired. And after a couple of
Yeah.
hours in the air conditioning and relaxing, we were so refreshed and ready to go. And so breaks, no matter how long your trip is, afternoon breaks are so important. Um, and then sit down meals. So if you're there for just a couple of days, we did one sit down meal in our 3 days, and that was 50's prime time for lunch, because we didn't want to just spend a lot of time um, eating. We just wanted to go play. And so, sometimes with your sit down meals, that can take an hour and a half. If you're doing character meals, it takes a little bit longer. Um,
Mhm.
but if you're there for a short time and you don't need the character meals and you don't need all those sit downs, then, we booked one at one of our favorites, and everything else, Disney has really good quick service. And so for this trip, much to my husband's chagrin, because his favorite thing to do is eat at all the sit down restaurants. But I convinced him that this trip, we just needed to go. So he obliged. And so we just scheduled one, and everything else was chicken guy. Oh, so okay, that might be a Freudian slip. We did eat a chicken guy, but not everything else was chicken guy. Everything else was quick service, and which did include chicken guy the first night we got there. Um, but sometimes those table service meals can take up some time. So on a short trip, you
Sure.
might just consider cutting those down. So those would be
Yeah.
maybe my top three.
Yeah. Great things. And it makes your rope drop time that much more important, probably, I would
Yes.
think. And that
Yep.
kind of goes along with if you're going to take a break in the afternoon, you certainly want to be there to take
Right.
advantage of that. Yeah. I think
Right.
those are all great things. So kind of the last big area, and we've mentioned some of this on and off, is dining. Did you have any memorable dining experiences? Maybe tell us how 50's prime time was, and
So
anything else that jumps out at you.
50's prime time is always fun. Um, really your server is the person who kind of makes or breaks that experience.
Mhm.
And, when you get somebody who's really into character, it just makes it great. And we did. And, I think my husband loves their mashed potatoes and their fried chicken. So that's what he always gets. Um, I love my ice cream sandwich in France. That was like my favorite thing, because it'd been a while. It'd been a few trips since I had gotten one. And so I was so happy to have it. Um, we love Chicken Guy at Disney Springs. And so I'm not much of a fried food eater, but I love the chicken at Chicken Guy. Um, and let's see, I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, we snacked a lot. Mickey pretzels, a lot of people think they're dry and dumb, but they're Mickey pretzels. Um, so this trip was just so fast. I'm just gonna have to say my favorite thing on this trip was the ice cream sandwich. I can't even remember the name of it. It's French, but it's
Yep.
in the France Pavilion in the ice cream shop in the back.
Yep.
And it's so good. I enjoyed it so very much.
I can't remember
So
the name of that place. It's got about 6 words in the name, but
I know
it
it's
is
so long,
it's
but it's on the left as you're walking back to La Hal's Bakery. So
yep.
anyway,
Both that and the bakery in France are some of the best
yes, yes,
things for sure. Um, as we go, as we're looking for snacks and desserts and those kind of
that's
things.
right.
But well, sounds like a great trip. It was a short
It
trip,
was
but you can
good.
certainly
Yep,
accomplish a lot.
it was.
Anything come up that we didn't get to, or was that all you
I
can?
mean, I think we've covered quite a bit, and I it was it's one of my favorite places to stay. Like I said, if you're looking for a more moderate resort for your budget and your family, and honestly, if you really look at it, the moderate properties are not very much more than the value properties, and you get so many more amenities. The hot tub, telling you, hot tubs at the end of the day are so nice. They are so nice. And sometimes, we'll make sure that we're at a moderate or deluxe just so we can have the hot tub, because it
Mhm.
just helps the back when you get old. So no, it was a great trip, and it's a short, and I love the changes that they're making there, and it's just a really, really nice place.
Yeah, I'll second that about the hot tubs. We stayed at Wilderness Lodge on our last trip, and we had a first floor room right next to the pool
Oh,
over by
nice.
Boulder Ridge. I can't remember the name what they've named that pool now. It's a
Right.
completely redone pool, and they have the biggest hot tub I've seen in there. I bet that hot tub would fit 20 people
Oh, that's
if
awesome.
if it could, and it was and like you said, it's nice at the end of the night and
Yep.
to get your back feeling better or your
Yes.
legs feeling better or
Yes.
whatever you need it
That's right.
for, or just to relax. Of course, if you're there in the summer, nighttime's
Right.
probably the only time you want to get in it, but
Right.
it can
Exactly.
be good for you. But well, thanks
Yep.
for sharing. I'm sure we'll
Of
see
course.
you in a few weeks on an
Yes.
episode about something else. I know you've
All right.
got a lot of other places you've been, so thanks for joining us, and we'll
Yes.
talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Travel Buzz podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all of our shows each week, either on YouTube at Big Dreams Travel or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, we would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you click the notification bell so that you know when we post new episodes or videos. I'm John Arthur. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful week and have fun planning those future dream vacations.